Hello, beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight's been in, Starlight's been out, Starlight's been in. It's a off and on rainy day, so yes, it has been a wet one out there. And anyway, I love you all, and I hope maybe in your area it's not raining. But Starlight, I got my umbrella with me, so I've been in and out I was supposed to get my laundry done, but anyway, I got my laundry done. So I hope you're getting out in nature somewhere. Whoops. And if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. And you could find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. Plus, you could give my videos a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, don't be afraid, don't be shy. Swing by and say hi to Starlight by leaving Starlight a message down below. Beep, beep, beep. Plus, you can also share my videos with your family, your friends. Let me see here. A lion or a giraffe. Yes, you could share my videos with them, and you could check out my playlist at 1995. Oh, you could check out my playlist, and you could follow me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. So anyway, I want to say a big, huge thank you to all of you who are here loving and supporting Starlight. So thank you for being here all these years, especially some of you have been here from the very beginning of my YouTube, even before I started YouTube. So thank you for being here and joining me and watching my videos, or even giving me thumbs up, or leaving me a message down below, sharing my videos, or leaving me a comment. Yeah, you can leave 2 comments down below. So anyway, I love you, and today it's about being that person. You got to be the one to do this. You got to give yourself credit. Don't wait for other people to give you approval for you living your life. And so it's about giving yourself a pat on the back. Starlight, you're doing amazing. Don't worry about what other people think of what you're doing, how you're doing, whatever you're doing. Is that you got to be the one to give yourself that credit and tell yourself, you know what, I am doing better than I think I am doing. And it's so easy to get worried about what other people think, like with social media, like Facebook or Instagram, or, even if you are a YouTube creator, and it's so easy to kind of like do what we've been programmed to do our whole life, is to, check up on other people and, see if they are doing better than us. And a lot of times, this is how the public school system has taught us to be, is to, be in competition with other people. And really, you got to stop doing that, Stop trying to compete with other people. There's people that could have been doing something a long time, and that's why even Starlight being a YouTube creator, I can't compete with other people on YouTube. They could have been doing something 10 years, and now this is how a lot of us can be at times, is saying, wow, I'm not really getting anywhere. Look at how great that person is doing, or look at how well they're doing. But you don't know how many years it took them to get where they are. So don't beat yourself up of where you are today. And, as long as you keep on plowing and you're giving your all, that's all you can do. And yesterday or the other day ago I was meditating, and a little signs from the universe, I get signs from the universe all the time. So I was under a tree, laying on the picnic table, meditating, and I knew something was on me, on my shirt or whatever. And I was like, what is that? Oh, it's a little baby it was a baby inchworm, and they are so cool. Sometimes I can't find the pictures online, but to me, an inchworm is one of those, they come from the trees. A lot of times you'll see a little web that they have, and they could be hanging off the tree, but they have like a little, they have a curve to them, and when they crawl. They're just like, they just, it's just a little curve and a little curve. But an inchworm, they, a little bit by little. But you know what? They get somewhere. Just like there's a lot of animals out there. Like there's times I will get snails. It's like, oh, Starlight, and it's okay. It's better to be going slow like a snail or, like a turtle than going too fast. And, and I have to say, with even jobs that people do, there's times that, you could get trained a certain way in life. And, now you think you got it all figured out, but you don't want to do everything the way you were trained. And so you skip through a lot of stuff. And then at the end results, how did the job turn out? Well, it didn't come out like the way it used to, because before you, like it's great to have a job. When you have a job, is to put your heart into it, is to say, hey, I love what I'm doing. I'm going to take the time to do the job right, instead of rushing through it and trying to hurry up. And this is where we end up messing up as far as working for companies. That's when, we're in a rush. We're not really taking time to do things in a correct way. And so then they get more out of us, but then the jobs could be half-assed, just like even a conveyor belt, at companies where they have things, and if they speed the machine too fast on some of these factories here, is that it could mess the whole job up. So it's got to be at a certain speed, so that way everything goes through, the correct way, and everything at the end comes out beautiful looking. But, even if it's too slow going through, it could screw things up, in life. So you want to at least give your all, and you got to be your own cheerleader, and, and be grateful for the ones that are out there. Like if you got family or friends that are out there, loved ones that are out there loving and supporting you, always make sure that you take time and say thank you to those out there, and just understand that you got to be the one to pat yourself on the back, and so there's signs all over to let you know how well you're doing, and they're all over. Everywhere you go, there's signs everywhere, whether it's numbers or symbols, or whether you have a dream, which actually I just remembered my dream from last night. God is talking to us all the time, but are you too distracted? Are you too much in a hurry, getting nowhere? I had to pull off the road today because my vehicle, there's certain things about my vehicle, like my windshield wiper. It's the wiper that's on the driver's side is just starting to tear a little bit, and so I have to be wise as to slow down, get off the road. It's not safe for me or other people is to take that risk where you've got to be able to see clear, to be able to whatever your aim is in life, is you got to be able to see clear enough to be able to see what you're doing. So don't be in such a rush, and don't think that you got to compete with other people. Is always just try to be, do better than what you did yesterday. And God, you know what? You could have this things to do list, like a big long list, and sometimes those things are great and sometimes they're not, because sometimes you get overwhelmed by that big old list, and it's so good to just focus on one thing at a time. And, multitasking at times can be good, but at other times, if you might not get anything done because you're multitasking, so none of the projects are done, right? None of them are done because you did a little bit here. But if you like, God has certain things that God wants me to work on every day. Does it always work that way? No, absolutely not. But if I work on the most important things every day, God rewards me. God rewards me and says, I gotta love myself and say, Starlight, it's okay that you weren't able to get that done today. But look at all the things that you did get done. So, look at all this stuff you did get done. You could have just didn't do anything. but you were working on stuff. You did get stuff done. And even if you get messages online somewhere where people are helping you out, sometimes people get discouraged. They're too hard on themselves. I'm like a messenger out here, and that's, and there's messengers out there that God uses. And, God can use anyone to give you a message. And don't get upset with the messenger, is to understand that, you can hear a message and it could really speak to your heart and your mind and say, yes, they're right. And you might not be ready to work on that right now because you might be overwhelmed with other things. But you can always pray and ask God for help. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with too much to-do list, because then you are going to beat yourself up mentally, your emotions, and God will know, so we have emotions. That's a lot of times, you might not even be aware of how you're feeling deep within yourself, but God sees. God knows how you feel about yourself, even if you're not even fully aware of, maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit. It's great to push yourself, but you got to also have that balance of both, is to say, what, I am pushing myself, I'm doing the best I can. Don't worry about what other people are going to say. You're always going to have the critics out there. We can't do nothing about it. And sometimes we are our worst critics. I'm a Virgo, so being a Virgo, I could be my worst critic. So God will send me messages and let me know, Starlight, it's great that you're pushing yourself, but you've got to give yourself more credit. So a lot of times, we're just looking at outside of us and looking at where everybody else is. Forget about where everybody else is. You don't have you know what? They have not walked in your shoes. You haven't walked in their shoes. Nobody could walk in my shoes. Nobody could do this. I only can do what I am doing. Nobody else can take my place right here. This is where I belong. This is where God put me. So nobody can come and take my place and handle what I'm doing. And nobody can fill your shoes where you are, what you're going through. So we all have our individual walk, our own path that we're taking in life. Hopefully you're not following everybody else. That's a big trip. That's a big, that's going to mess you up, is by following what everybody else is doing. You got to, it's all right. You're going to get people out there giving you messages that will help you out, that they really care and love you, but you got to take your own, take your own pace, do your own pace. Like today, when I'm driving on the road, sorry, Starlight's got to straighten her back up. When I'm driving on the road, like this morning, I had 2 tractor trailers that were not safe, and you get the slow lane and the fast lane. If you get somebody that is on your ass on the throughway or wherever you're going, you look at the speed limit. And I talk to myself in my car, so it's an interesting topic in my car. You never know what the heck Starlight's going to talk about outwardly in my car. But like, if I am doing the speed limit and it's crazy, I'm doing the speed limit, and you'll have somebody on your ass. When there's 2 lanes, there's nobody in the, on the left lane. It's like, you know what? You're not going to push me to go any further. You're not going to push me to go any faster, because the speed limit says I don't know these roads, and I could get caught or get in an accident or put somebody else at risk. So a lot of things could happen. So it's best to stay in your own lane, do your own speed, and like the other thing also is I learn a lot of things everywhere I go. I'm always getting lessons everywhere I go. Like the other day, I was on a throughway, and Starlight was the leader, and it could be very tense being a leader, but I'd rather be a leader than a follower. And so I'm on this road, and what it was first it was 2 lanes on both sides, but then they're doing a lot of construction work on that big ass long road. So on that road, they let you know ahead of time. So I'm the leader. I was actually the one in the front, and then the speed limit sign, they had the speed limit, well, actually, they had road signs letting you know that it's going to be a one lane, ahead. And then it went down to like 55 for the speed limit. Well, guess what? Starlight was the leader, and it's tense. It could be tense being a leader, like I said. And here I am in the front leading everybody, on that road. Now, I could have been a really bad, horrible leader by going too fast, getting in a car accident, and causing everybody else to get in a car accident. So you do have to be careful who you follow, and it's best to have, pave your own way, create your own path, and I've done that a long time ago. Is there was a path out in the woods, and Starlight, you know what, I had a pair of clippers, and I love these things. I love doing this stuff. So Starlight, you know what, Starlight's like, I want to make my own path. I don't want to go on this path here down below, because I want to be hidden. I am a female out in the middle of nowhere, out in the woods with my dog, and so that's what I did. I started making my own path, and that's what you need to do. Forget about what everybody else is doing. You can get help from other people, of course. God can use anybody. Are you willing to actually listen to what God could use even a homeless person to give you a message? But what it is, are you willing to listen? Is the ego getting in the way? So that's what you got to watch out for, is the ego getting in the way, and where the ego might feel so comfortable and it might not want any help right now. It just, hey, I'm happy with what I'm doing. And so with that, when that happens, is that means you're going to end up learning patience more, because there's things that will not happen in your life and until you let go of certain things that are not serving you. And so you got to be really careful as far as, being a leader is, there's rules to all of that. There's verses in the Bible, follow me as I follow Christ. So if somebody's going, on their own way and it's not going in the direction of God, that's when you need to really understand that that's a time to let go. But it's really important to make your own path in life. Take your own path, like I was doing before, is making my own path. I was trimming it all up. It was really cool because everybody was down here and there was a hill with a bunch of, bushes. And it was great because it went right to my fort. And I was always wearing camouflage in those years. I didn't want people to really see me in the woods. And so in life here, don't worry about where everybody else is. Like on a throughway, don't worry about if they want to speed, let them speed, let them go. A lot of times, I pray for people on the road, and then other times I tell them, hey, there's no reason for them to speed, but I'm like, hey, your ticket's down that way. If they get caught, they can get get a ticket. But they put themselves at risk and other people at risk. So you got to really be careful the kind of people you're following out there, because they if they're just rushing and being not being thoughtful of other people, you could get hurt. So don't worry about where they're going in life, or even if somebody's going slow. Who cares? You know what? If they're going slow, like on a road, a lot of times it will say the minimum 40, I think it's 40 that you got to go, and then the speed limit. They'll have the speed limit and they want you to go the minimum and the speed limit. Say if it's 70 for the speed limit, but the minimum, they want you to go 40. So don't worry about it. If somebody's going 40 on the road, maybe they're new, they're scared out of their mind, maybe their car's having problems. You could pray for those people, or you could just go and do your own pace. Don't worry about where that person is, that they've been doing that for a long time. There's people that don't even start anything because they don't believe in themselves, and they look at where everybody else is. Well, look at where you are. Look at where that one is. Look at where, look at what they're doing. But guess what? They started where you are, at scratch at the bottom. They didn't get there, like my mentor. It didn't happen overnight. He had to do a lot of studying. He had to do a lot of looking up, like how to do this and how to do that. And I just inspired a man not too long ago. Now, only God would know, and people do this is, I could do a checkup on them and say, like if I'm not in that area anymore, but hey, you said next time I see you, you'll have your YouTube channel up. How you doing with that, Oh, I didn't expect to see you. Shit. I didn't get anywhere yet. So, you know what? There's doers and then there's sayers. You can either be a sayer that just says stuff, but not doing, or you could be a doer that, just does. So it's best not to really tell people what your plans are, what you're going to do, because that's when we're going to trip ourselves up, is just get in there and work. And that's what I was telling that guy, and some people, they get so offended by how people talk to them because they're not really used to having it in their face. There's people, they've been brought up in a certain way where they might have never had that, and that's why you gotta be careful how you're bringing your kids up, is you want to give your kids the truth. And it takes time as they grow. When they start off, you can explain stuff, and when they get older, you can go in a little bit more depth with it. And then when they get older, then you can be more straight with them, and don't beat around the bush, but always be honest with your children, because it's going to help them out later on in their life. So, but you don't want to. You got to get them prepared for the real world, and and that's, like say, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, not what I'm going to tell you what you don't want to hear, not what you want to hear. And that's what the kids need. That's what we all need. Some people, they don't want to have that. They don't want to. They want help. They will cry for help. But when help comes, it's too much for them. They're like, don't get overwhelmed. Don't get overwhelmed with it. Breathe it in. Say, okay. Sometimes we do. We got to sit back for a bit. And this has happened on it to me a lot of times on this journey. Somebody helped me out, and it was so overwhelming. I didn't see it coming because it was right in my face. But you know what? I did get emotional. I did get upset with it. And it took me like days, maybe 3 days to adjust, to adjust to that. Saying, you know what, I know this person cares about me. It's not that they don't care about me. They care about me. They want to see me grow. They want to see me become my greatest version of myself. They want to see me be the change that I want to see in the world. They are cheering me on. I know that, when you get to know somebody well enough, that it's not that they're here to hurt you. They're here to help you. And you got to understand that sometimes we, get offended so easily that we think that people that are really there helping us are there, we think that, why are you doing that to me? That means that those areas that you need to get healed, you need to get healed in those areas. Those are something that happened through your life that got you the way you are. And that's why we got to let go of those old versions of ourselves, those old versions that, we weren't used to hearing the truth in our face. We were used to people beating around the bush or telling us what we want to hear. As far as Starlight goes, as far as getting with a man, is I desire a man that's not going to beat around the bush. I desire a man who's going to give me not what I want to hear. He's going to give me the truth, whether I like it or not. And there's ways of doing that. I'd rather have somebody point blank tell me exactly what I need instead of telling me what I want to hear that makes me feel good, and it tickles me, and thank you. That, because there's no growth in that. So don't get upset with people when they give you a message that God uses them. And this happens to all of us at different times. God, I need help. Please help me out. Then when it's smack in your face, it's like, you got to realize, if you've been asking for help so many times, God is going to help you out. But are you ready to hear the answer? Are you ready to face it? And it does. Sometimes we have to sit with it, keep our heart right with the people, and understand that those people only want to see us grow. They want to see us win. So don't get upset with the messenger out there, and realize that they only want to see you grow. Like with me on my YouTube channel, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel about be the change that you want to see in the world. I had to do that work on myself first before I even try to help you out. Before I even help you out, I don't want to say the word try, but before I even help you out, I have to first do the work on myself, because I wouldn't be able to help anybody else out unless I did the work within, on myself. And that is why I'm in this situation. God has got me in this situation because there's going to be shit happening in the future. So I'm going through training right now so then I can be a better help to other people when the shit hits the fan. I'm going to be already going through what I need to go through so then I can help other people when that stuff happens. So it's not to hurt you, it's to help you. And, don't beat yourself up to where you are right now. If you are just doing the best that you can do, that's all you can do. So you need to give yourself a hug and say, you know what, Starlight, I am doing better than I think. You are doing so great, Starlight. You know what? Look at how far you've come. Look at who you are. It's not about what I have, it's about who I am. So don't try to compete with other people of what they have. Oh, look, they got a car, I don't. They got a job, I don't. They got a family, I don't. They have all this material stuff, I don't. No, it's not about that. That's where we get tripped up. It's who you are. Like I talked to a guy today. God sends me in all different places. God pulled me off the road today to get off this exit today. Why? Because there's people out here that needed something that I had to say. God used me in a way today to help 2 people out today out in this area. So you need to understand God is going to send people your way, but are you going to get upset with the messenger? That's the question. Even a pastor at a church, you could get angry all you want, and he could have a great message. It could be the message that you need. And you could get really upset and get envious of the pastor for, he could have been a man of God, and God could have been really using him. God puts it on his heart what to say. And just like with Starlight, when your intuition is growing, God will be able to use people like myself to help other people with the struggles that they're going through, because they've already gone through what you're going through. I've already tasted that, I've already done that, been there, got the t-shirt, so I can help you in those areas. But if you don't want the help, why ask God for help? When you ask for help, it's going to be there. But you gotta, it takes time, to understand, okay, that was God. God's ways are not our ways. God does things that we might never understand. Why did this happen? Ask God, what are you trying to show me? What are you trying to teach me right now in my life? What's going on in my life? What, and when the answer comes, it could smack you right in the face. It'd be bam. Be ready for that. It's not gonna come to you the way you think, not spoon fed all the time. Here you go. There's levels of growth here. Like a Christian, when they start out, they get spoon fed. Just like a baby, you get spoon fed. But later on, Starlight doesn't eat meat. So as you grow, you're going to have to handle that stuff just like, handling the truth. The truth will set you free, but you gotta really listen to the messenger when God uses those people, and, give yourself a break. You don't have to do it all in one shot. It's just a little bit by little, like that little inchworm. It's a little bit, don't worry about what other people, don't worry about the person in the fast lane. You're in your own lane. That's all you need to work. When I'm on the slow lane, that's where you'll find me, as a slow lane. Don't worry about the people passing you. They could be going so fast it could end up in an accident. I don't wish that to happen to anybody, but don't worry about those people in the fast lane. It's about working on you, giving yourself a break, giving yourself a pat on the back, giving yourself a hug and saying you're doing better than you think. Don't be so hard on yourself. That's an old version of yourself that you got to let go. Don't get mad at other people because they give you a message and it might have hit you hard. That's how we need it at times. We need to hit it, to have it sink in. So I love you so much. So don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself a lot of credit where you are. Say, you know what? I am doing great. Don't compete with other people. Don't look at where they are right now. They've been working on it a long time. just like, if they're on chapter 20 and you're only on chapter 3 for reading, don't worry about it. Let them do their thing. Don't focus on them, focus on you. Focus on what you're doing. Focus on what you're doing right. Don't focus on all the things that you're not happy with. Focus on what you're doing right. And, it takes time. This is where you got to learn patience. It takes time. It's like, just like a person, like I do know, I've done this myself when I had to wean off of medications. The same thing. You're weaning yourself off of old versions of yourself. Sometimes that's all it is, just like weaning off a medication. You're just weaning a little bit of an old version of yourself. And then, it's cool. When you see the growth and you see the changes in your life, you're like, wow, look at where I am right now. I am doing better. I don't care what people think. I know where I am. They don't know anything about your life. They don't know where you came from. They don't know the struggle behind the scenes. The behind the scenes, you don't know all of what Starlight goes through on an everyday basis. I make it look easy. Don't people make it look easy? So don't think it's easy because it looks easy out there. You don't know the struggles that people have to get to where they are. So it's not as easy as everybody makes it look. Just do the best that you can do today and just stay in today, in the now, in a moment. Don't worry about what other people are going to say or what, how they're going to criticize, and don't criticize yourself. Give yourself a hug today and tell yourself that you are doing amazing. You are doing better than you think. And who cares about what other people think? They're not in your shoes. They don't know where you came from. And I love you, so you are stronger than what you're going through. Believe in yourself. And that is what you need to do, is believe in yourself and ask God for help. You cannot do this alone. You need help. You've got to ask for help. But you've got to be prepared and ready for how God is going to give you that help. Are you willing to really, and thank God. Thank God. Thank you for giving me that message. It was hard. It hit me, hard. But you know what? Wouldn't you rather have the truth than somebody just, feeding you a bunch of bullshit and saying you're doing great? There's people that have done this in past relationships with me. They were lying. I've had people, lie right to me. They didn't want to hurt my feelings. Really, I'd rather you hurt my feelings and tell me the bitter truth than a sweet lie. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. And so I love you so much, and that's tough love. But you know what? That's how God is. We can't just be spoon-fed all the time. We need to get hit hard sometimes with the truth. That truth is going to set you free. That truth is going to open up doors. That truth is going to help you to grow, And so anyway, I love you so much. This is Starlight. You could give this video a thumbs up. You could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you could leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And you could share my videos with your family or friends. A cat and a duck. Plus, you can check out my playlist, and you can find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. So, be patient with yourself. Don't worry about people going in the fast lane passing you. Go your own pace. If you need to be a snail, be a snail. An inchworm, be an inchworm. A turtle, be a turtle. Don't worry about it. God will reward you if you just stay focused and do what the things that God really wants you to do. God will reward you. God will say, look at you. You didn't get these other things done. That's okay. You're working on what's most important. That's what matters. So anyway, I love you so much. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight, love, light, and peace.